Ooh, well, fancy seeing you here again. Well, I'm very glad you decided to stop by, because you have arrived at just the right moment, where we find ourselves not too late, but a matter of fact, just on time to return to No Coins, Please. And where we last left off, what was happening? Right. They had gotten their van towed in New York City, and they had to go to the impound and pay to get their van back from the police. And when they did, they found Artie was waiting for them in the van. So, Chapter 3, A Piece of America. The white van, now a bit gray after its trials and tribulations in the soot of New York City, finally drove through the gate of the Long Island Campground at 7:30 that night. Tired and hungry, the 8 occupants piled out to find Charlie Butcher waiting for them, his face an unhealthy shade of purple. "Are you Nevin and Lever from Canada?" "That's us," Dennis tried to sound cheerful. "Get over here." For the benefit of the campers, Butcher forced a smile and added, "We'll just be a few minutes, fellas." He turned to Dennis and Rob with murder in his eye. "You're late, and you know how I feel about that. And that van looks disgusting. Everyone else is going to the drive-in tonight, but you don't get to go. Feed those kids and wash the van, and don't let me catch you being late again." He hopped into a dark sedan and sped off. "Who does he think he is?" complained Dennis. "He could have at least let us explain." Rob groaned. "If we explained what happened today, he'd probably fire us on the spot. Just be grateful he didn't find out." So it was that when the bulk of the Junior Tour's contingent returned from their showing of The Cheese People later that night, they found the campers and counselors of the ambulance up to their ears in suds, scrubbing their van. "Hey, ambulance!" heckled one of the Roadhog's counselors as he drove by. "What are you doing? Sterilizing?" Dennis flushed red. This is mortifying. Rob grabbed a polishing cloth. "If you had any sense, Dennis, you'd worry less about your public image and more about the little Houdini we have to cart around. He's real trouble, and I have a feeling this is only the tip of the iceberg." Sheldon's voice wafted over from the other side of the van where they were polishing hubcaps. "You know, this reminds me of the time Peter Grodnick and I had a big car wash for charity." "Artie'll be okay," said Dennis abstractedly. "You're missing the point," Rob insisted. "I'm not even worried about him disappearing so much as where he's going. What does he do with those hours on his own? Today I asked him where he went and he said, 'Oh, no place.'" "Theirs isn't much better," said Dennis. "What?" "Their name. Roadhogs. Roadhogs. Great name for a bunch of pigs." "Dennis, pay attention. We're sitting on a time bomb here." "I knew those guys were going to be trouble as soon as they moved in on our women," Dennis mused. "Wipe that look off your face," Rob commanded. "We've got problems. This is no time to start a gang war." "Roadhogs." "All right, Dennis. You've called the shots up until now. It's my turn. We're going to forget about the Roadhogs. We're going to accept the fact that we're the ambulance, and we're going to spend the rest of the trip watching Artie like hawks. I don't care if we don't get a date between here and California. He's not getting away again." The next day, the counselors and campers of Ambulance Group headed for the Hayden Planetarium of the New York Museum of Natural History for that morning's showing of The Stars and Beyond. From the instant the group left the van, Artie Geller found himself under heavy guard. Dennis and Rob walked closely on either side of him, matching his pace exactly, discouraging any attempt to wander ahead or lag behind. The group gained admission to the museum with their Junior Tour's pass and began to view the exhibits. Howie, it turned out, had been a closet astronomer since age 6, and his bubbling enthusiasm and technical explanations quickly got on everyone's nerves. Not since the introduction of Pete Ogrodnik had the group been so bored by one of its members. It was with relief that they seated themselves in the domed theater, the two counselors carefully flanking Artie. The theater darkened. The show was an interesting discussion of astronomy, enhanced by a spectacular projector display on the domed ceiling. Twice, an usherette had to restrain Howie from taking an active part, but gradually everyone settled down to enjoy the performance. Finally, the soothing music swelled to an exciting crescendo as the film recreated the birth of the universe, and the lights came on to reveal Dennis and Rob separated by an empty seat. Coincidentally, Attack Jelly went on sale in the Wall Street financial district. It was enjoying enormous popularity, and sales were heavy. When his stock was sold out, Artie stopped at one of the many nearby banks to convert his gains into bigger bills, since storage space in the attaché case was limited. He also dropped by his suppliers' establishments where, as an affluent cash customer, he was greeted warmly. Tomorrow was to be his last day in New York, and Artie had arranged to have an enormous farewell supply of Attack Jelly shipped to Brooklyn's Coney Island, where the tour planned to proceed, weather permitting. Finally, after dodging into a restaurant washroom where he changed out of his tuxedo, he hailed a cab and rushed uptown in time to meet the ambulance and its frantic counselors for the planned picnic lunch at Central Park Zoo. When Artie disappeared at Coney Island the next day, Rob was more aggravated than surprised. Why was it that an 11-year-old kid could slip out from under his gaze so effortlessly? He was watching. Really, he was. He had sent 6 kids onto the roller coaster, and 5 emerged. "Where's Artie?" Rob asked, eyes wild. "He left again," said Nick in disgust. "I guess he's going to be doing that from now on. Hey, let's go on the parachute jump." "Yeah, with Dennis," cheered Howie. "Well, I don't know if Dennis will want to go this time," said Rob. "He got pretty sick after the last drop." Dennis walked over a little pasty-faced, but smiling. "Hi guys, how was the roller coaster?" "Why don't you ask a more pertinent question?" said Rob darkly. "Like, where's Artie?" At that moment, Artie was opening the lockers where his supplies were stored. From storage, he proceeded to a change room where assembly took place, and then to a heavily traveled spot on the boardwalk. Attack Jelly sales began in earnest. If the sophisticated New Yorker had been delighted by Artie's product and pitch, the tourist found the $10 investment too good to be true. One visitor from Montreal commented to his family that Attack Jelly and its tuxedo-clad vendor were, quote, a true sampling of New York atmosphere. Business boomed for much of the afternoon. When his stock was sold out, Artie returned to the change room, stashed earnings and tuxedo in his briefcase, and went to look for the ambulance group. By this time, Dennis had decided to start working on the tan he intended to perfect during the summer. Greased like a griddle, he lay on the beach looking like something that had washed in with the tide. The campers were in the ocean, jumping the breakers and experimenting with the group yell underwater. Rob was watching them, and at the same time keeping an eye out for Artie. He noticed that several other junior tourist groups were around, both at the beach and in the amusement area, and he couldn't help casting an occasional glance at the various female counselors, lounging in bathing suits or digging in the sand with their charges. The Roadhogs, of course, were nearest the greatest concentration of girls. Allowing their campers to do whatever they pleased, the two counselors were indulging in a boisterous game of frisbee, with much shouting and flexing of muscles. A wayward throw caused the larger of the two to tear headlong across the sand in order to make a spectacular catch. Oof! A big foot pounded heavily on Dennis's stomach, jackknifing his arms and legs into the air as the Roadhog's counselor deftly caught the frisbee with his index finger. Wielding his catch, he turned. "Hey, sorry about that, pal. I was just..." He looked down at Dennis, and with a wide grin of recognition spread across his face. "Hey, call an ambulance!" He jogged off, laughing loudly. An answering chorus of guffaws was heard from the Junior Tour's people. Rob rushed over. "Are you all right?" "Just a little winded," gasped Dennis in agony. Rob looked with disgust at the resumed Frisbee tournament. "What idiots! We're going to have to stay out of their way." Dennis rubbed his stomach gingerly. "We're definitely going to have to do something about them. Why not right now?" "Well, I've got 4 reasons why not right now," said Rob. "First, this beach is policed by people who probably don't think too much of brawls. Second, with Artie missing, we can't afford to get thrown out of Coney Island. Third, you're in a weakened condition from being sick on all those rides and getting stomped on. And fourth, those gorillas outweigh us by about 100 pounds. And I don't want my face converted into hamburger. How's that for reasons?" Dennis breathed deeply. "Well, anyway, here comes Artie." Rob's eyes followed his partner's. Along the beach, his bare feet splashing in the surf, marched Artie Geller, dressed only in a bathing suit. Around his neck hung the leather pouch, and in his hand he carried the inevitable attaché case. "This time we should really nail him," Rob seethed. "We should get on his back and not lay off until he tells us where he's been for the past 4 days. "Oh, come on, Rob," said Dennis, abandoning himself again to the rays of the sun. "This is supposed to be a fun trip. Tomorrow morning we leave for Washington, and I'm sure Artie'll settle down. It's just that New York has an effect on some people. I guess he's one of them." "Hi, Rob. Dennis," Artie said as he sat on the blanket and gazed out to sea, hugging his case on his lap. "Nice day, isn't it?" "Where have you been?" stormed Rob. He knew the answer would make him no wiser, but his system needed the outlet. "Oh, nowhere much." "And what have you been up to?" "Nothing special." "Then why can't you do it with us?" "I don't know," Artie said, waving amiably at his fellow campers in the surf. There were no activities planned for the Junior Tour's people that night, since the groups were packing in preparation for moving on the next morning. A few radios were playing, and some of the campers were running around in a pickup game of tag, but apart from that, the camp was relatively quiet. "Smile, Dennis." From his crouch just inside the tent flap, Kevin snapped a picture, then picked up a stenographer's notebook and wrote, "Roll 2, exposure 8. Dennis smearing cream on bad sunburn." He chewed his pencil thoughtfully and nodded, "Note redness of shoulders and nose." Dennis was disgusted. Kevin, this isn't the kind of stuff you want to capture on film. Surely there are better things to remember about this trip than my suffering." "The way things have been going, I'd say it's one of the high points," said Rob sourly. "Put me down for a print of that one." Nick, Howie, and Sam and Sheldon marched into the tent and sat down in varying attitudes of discontent. "Hey guys, what happened to the tag game?" asked Dennis, slipping into a t-shirt as carefully as possible. Sam snorted. "It's all politics. I was it. Some guy came too close and I tagged him. He said I didn't touch him, and since I don't have as many connections as he does, everybody listened to him. So I tagged him again. My fist, his face." The game broke up. "Aw, Sam," Rob groaned. "We're supposed to get along with everybody." Sam shrugged. "Who wants to get along with a guy who won't admit when he's tagged?" Nick, Howie, Kevin, and Sheldon all nodded in agreement. Rob sighed heavily. "All right, everybody, let's just go to sleep." "Can I stay up a little later?" Sheldon requested. "I want to finish my letter to Pete." "Well, okay, but make it fast." Artie had taken 100% of Rob's energy, leaving him powerless to cope with anything else. All evening, he had tried to worm out of Artie the details, any details, of his activities on his solitary excursions. It was like talking to a loaf of bread. Steady grilling, wheedling, shaming, and threatening served only to turn up the information that Artie had been no place where he had done nothing much. after which he had come back to the group. The kid was a clam and, most perplexing of all, had spent the rest of the evening reading his tour book, a thick volume entitled Take a Piece of America Home With You. Suddenly he was the greatest tourist in the world? As the group bedded down, Rob found himself sleepless despite his exhaustion. After struggling into his jeans, he crawled out of the tent to join Dennis, who had been unable to go to bed upon discovering that the sunburn cream had epoxied his shirt to his blistered shoulders. The medicinal smell of the cream hung heavy in the air, and it was this that brought Cindy and Vera, the counselors of the Bluebirds, over to the ambulance. Rising above his pain, Dennis became suddenly sociable, although the girls were only interested in borrowing some burn cream. He was generally encouraged. Cindy and Vera, he sighed, a goofy grin replacing his painful grimace. Rob laughed. Earth calling Dennis. Face it, they only love us for our burn cream. Ah, but my instincts, Nevin, my instincts say this is the start of a beautiful relationship. Your instincts also told you you were getting a tan. Cool it, Nevin. Very well. End of chapter 3. And in a couple of days, we'll be back with chapter 4, A Day at the Races. Indeed. But until then, it is just a tiny bit past my bedtime. And so I am off to get some sleep. Good night.